The crystal room buzzed with the kind of laughter that comes from people who've never worried about rent. Savannah sat at the head of our table like a queen holding court, her blonde hair catching the light from the chandelier above. She wore the red dress I'd bought her last Christmas, back when I thought expensive gifts might make her love me more. "Ethan, honey," she said, her voice carrying that sweet poison I'd learned to recognize. "Tell everyone about your big promotion at work." I shifted in my chair, feeling the weight of 15 pairs of eyes on me. Her friends, all perfectly styled, all perfectly cruel, leaned forward like vultures, sensing weakness. "There wasn't a promotion," I said quietly. "Oh, that's right." Savannah's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "You're still just a maintenance supervisor at that grimy little factory. My mistake." Gemma, her best friend and partner in social destruction, smirked. "Don't worry, Ethan. Not everyone can be successful like Chase here." She gestured to the pretty boy sitting 3 seats down, who'd been stealing glances at my wife all evening. Chase Larkin, trust fund baby, perfect teeth. The kind of guy who'd never worked a day in his life but somehow owned half the city. He raised his champagne glass in mock salute. "To honest work," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. The table erupted in giggles. Harper, Savannah's work friend, held up her phone, recording every humiliating second for her Instagram story. I could already see the caption, "When your friend's husband is a charity case." "You know what I love about Ethan?" Savannah continued, her voice getting louder as the wine hit her system. "He's so authentic. Look at that face, those clothes. He's like a real person, not like all these fake pretty boys we usually hang around with." More laughter. I felt my jaw clench, but I stayed silent. Let her have her moment. "I mean, seriously," she went on, gesturing wildly with her wine glass. "When I married him, people thought I was crazy. Savannah, they said, you could do so much better. But I believe in charity work." The words hit like physical blows. 5 years of marriage, and this was what I meant to her. A charity case, a pity project. "A man like you should be grateful I even dated you," she said, her green eyes glittering with malice. "Let alone married you." I looked around the table at their faces, some amused, some uncomfortable, all watching the show. Chase was practically glowing with satisfaction. That's when I noticed it, the way his hand brushed against Savannah's when she reached for her purse. The knowing look they shared when they thought no one was watching. The pieces clicked into place. The late nights at the gym. The new lingerie I'd never seen her wear. The way she'd started criticizing everything about me with surgical precision. The waiter appeared with the check. $3,000 for dinner and drinks. Savannah pushed it toward me without looking. "Happy birthday to me," she said, raising her glass. "And thank you to my sweet husband for picking up the tab. Again." I pulled out my credit card, the one that would probably be maxed out after this, and handed it to the waiter. My hands were steady, my voice calm. "Happy birthday, Savannah." She leaned over and kissed my cheek, a performance for the audience. See, he's not completely useless. As we left the restaurant, Chase made sure to walk close behind me. When I reached my beat-up truck, he stepped forward and spat on the hood. "Oops," he said, grinning. "Must have slipped." I looked at the saliva sliding down my windshield, then at his smug face. Then I smiled. "No problem," I said, getting into the truck. "Happens to the best of us." I drove home alone. Savannah had gotten a ride from Gemma, and sat in my dark kitchen, staring at my phone. No messages, no calls, not even a thank you for the $3,000 dinner. At 6:47 a.m., my phone started ringing. Then it didn't stop. By the time I fully woke up, I had 139 missed calls, 67 voicemails, and 203 text messages, all from the same law firm, Hartwell, Morrison, and Associates. The first voicemail was formal. "Mr. Callahan, please call us regarding your uncle's estate." The fifth was urgent. "Mr. Callahan, it's imperative that you contact us immediately." The 20th was practically begging. "Mr. Callahan, you've inherited $25 million and controlling interest in Callahan Industrial. Please call us back." I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone. Uncle Frank, Dad's older brother, the one who'd disappeared when I was 12, the family black sheep who'd supposedly blown his inheritance on bad investments and worse women. Turns out Uncle Frank had been busy. Callahan Industrial sat on the outskirts of town like a sleeping giant. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, never knowing it belonged to my family. The main building stretched 3 city blocks, with smokestacks reaching toward the gray morning sky. Mick O'Brien met me at the front gate. He was built like a refrigerator with arms, his weathered face split by a grin that could sell insurance to a corpse. You must be Frank's nephew, he said, crushing my hand in his grip. I'm the foreman. Been waiting 30 years for someone from the family to show up. 30 years? Frank hired me when I got back from Desert Storm. Good man, your uncle. Weird as heck, but good. Come on, let me show you around. The factory was massive. 3 shifts, 400 employees, contracts with half the manufacturers in the Midwest. Uncle Frank had built an empire while living like a hermit. Why didn't anyone know about this? I asked as we walked through the main production floor. Frank was paranoid about family, Mick explained, shouting over the machinery. Said his brother, your dad, had married a gold digger who'd poisoned the well. He wanted to wait until he found someone worthy. We climbed the stairs to the executive offices. Through the windows, I could see the entire city spread out below us. Guess he found his guy, Mick said, handing me a set of keys. These are yours now, boss. Boss. I'd never been anyone's boss before. My phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Where are you? We need to talk about last night. I showed Mick the message. He read it and snorted. Your wife? For now. Frank mentioned her once. Said she had the look of a woman who would sell her grandmother for a designer purse. I was starting to like Uncle Frank. Marla Hendricks arrived at noon. She was 60-something, sharp as a razor, and dressed like she could buy and sell half the city before lunch. Your uncle was a smart man, she said, settling into the conference room chair. He saw this coming from a mile away. Saw what coming? Your wife's betrayal. He had her investigated 2 years ago. She slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were photographs, bank records, and a private investigator's report. Savannah and Chase at hotels. Savannah using my credit cards to buy him gifts. Savannah laughing with her friends about her charity case husband at places I'd never been. He wanted you to have options when the time came, Marla said. Speaking of which, I assume you'll be filing for divorce? I stared at a photo of my wife kissing another man in the parking lot of the very restaurant where she'd humiliated me. Yes. Good. I've already prepared the paperwork. We can freeze her access to your accounts immediately and change the locks on any properties you own. I don't own any properties. Marla smiled. You do now. Your uncle left you his house, a cabin in Colorado, and a condo in Miami, plus the factory, the bank accounts, and a rather impressive stock portfolio. I felt like I was dreaming. Yesterday, I was a maintenance supervisor married to a woman who saw me as a charity case. Today, I was worth $25 million and owned the biggest factory in the city. There's one more thing, Marla said. Your uncle left specific instructions about your wife. What kind of instructions? He wanted you to have the option of, how did he put it, giving her enough rope to hang herself. We have evidence of adultery, fraud, and emotional misuse. If she wants to play dirty, we can bury her. I thought about last night, the laughter, the humiliation, the way Chase had looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. Let's see what she does first, I said. I have a feeling she's going to make this easy for us. As if summoned by my words, my phone rang. Savannah. Where the heck are you? She snapped without preamble. I've been calling all morning. I'm at work. Well, get home. We need to discuss your behavior last night. My behavior? You embarrassed me in front of my friends, sitting there like a lump, making everyone uncomfortable. I work with these people, Ethan. I have a reputation to maintain. I looked out the window at my factory, my employees, my empire. We'll talk when I get home, I said, and hung up. Mick was grinning. This is going to be fun, isn't it? I think it might be. Rosa Martinez had been cleaning the factory offices for 15 years. She was small, quiet, and had the kind of eyes that missed nothing. She also, as I discovered, had a talent for being in the right place at the right time. Mr. Callahan, she said, appearing in my doorway like a ghost. I need to tell you something. It was my 3rd day as owner, and I was still getting used to people calling me Mr. Callahan instead of hey you. What is it, Rosa? She glanced around nervously, then stepped into the office and closed the door. Your wife, she said. She's been here. Here? At the factory? 3 times in the last month. With that pretty boy, the one with the expensive car. Chase. Of course. What were they doing? Rosa's cheeks reddened. Things married people should do, but not married people married to other people. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. Savannah and Chase in the factory parking lot, pressed against his BMW, completely oblivious to the world around them. I was emptying trash from the security office when I saw them, Rosa explained. Figured someone should know. I studied the photo. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 weeks ago while I was working my old job across town, completely unaware that my wife was using my family's property for her affair. Rosa, can you send me this photo? Already did. And Mr. Callahan, there's more. She showed me her call log. 17 calls to various numbers over the past month. I called your uncle's lawyer every week for a year, she said. Told them they needed to find Frank's nephew. Told them his wife was no good and he deserved better. You did that for me? Frank was a good man. He talked about you sometimes, said you were the only family member who ever really mattered. She paused. He also said your wife would show her true colors eventually. Looks like he was right. Men like Frank usually are. That afternoon, I drove home to the small house I'd shared with Savannah for 5 years. She was waiting in the living room, surrounded by shopping bags from stores I couldn't afford. Finally, she said without looking up from her phone. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to have my credit card declined at Nordstrom today? I changed our banking arrangements. You what? Her head snapped up, eyes flashing. I moved my money to a different account. You'll need to use your own funds for shopping. My own funds? Ethan, I don't have any money. You know I spend everything I make on maintaining my appearance. That's an investment in both of us. I sat down across from her, studying her face. She was beautiful. There was no denying that. But it was the kind of beauty that required constant maintenance, constant feeding, constant worship. Why don't you ask Chase to help with your shopping? I said quietly. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed her Rosa's photo. Savannah stared at it for a long moment, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. That's not what it looks like. What does it look like? He was upset about something. I was comforting him. By sticking your tongue down his throat? Her shock was already transforming into anger. It was fascinating to watch. How dare you have me followed? I didn't have you followed. You were just careless. This is ridiculous. So what if I have friends? So what if I need attention from someone who actually appreciates me? Look at yourself, Ethan. Look at what I have to come home to every day. I am looking, I said, and I'm filing for divorce. Divorce? She laughed, but there was panic in her eyes. On what grounds? Adultery, fraud, take your pick. You can't prove anything. I can prove you've been using our credit cards to buy gifts for your boyfriend. I can prove you've been meeting him at my family's property. And I can prove you've been telling people our marriage is a charity case. Your family's property? Ethan, what are you talking about? I stood up and walked to the window. I inherited some things recently, including the factory where you've been playing house with Chase. You inherited how much? Enough. I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. The anger was fading, replaced by something much more dangerous. Calculation. Ethan, honey, she said, her voice suddenly soft. I think we need to talk about this. Really talk. Maybe we've both made mistakes. Maybe we have. I could change. I could be better. I know I've been difficult lately, but it's just because I felt so disconnected from you. I turned to face her. She had tears in her eyes now, real ones. Or at least, well-practiced ones. How much did you inherit? She asked. It doesn't matter. Of course it matters. We're married. We're a team. We were a team. You decided to recruit a new player. That's over. Chase means nothing to me. You're my husband. I walked to the front door and opened it. Pack your things, Savannah. You have until tomorrow night. You can't throw me out of my own house? It's not your house. It never was. Your name isn't on the deed. This is insane. You can't just... I can, and I am. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw her make a decision. The tears disappeared. The soft voice hardened. Fine, she said. But this isn't over. You think you can just throw me away like garbage? You think you can humiliate me in front of my friends and then kick me out? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I said, I think I'm finally figuring that out. After she left, I sat in my quiet house and called Mick. How'd it go? He asked. About like you'd expect. She's going to fight dirty. I'm counting on it. Good. Because I have a feeling this is just the beginning. He was right. The real war was about to start. Paige Callahan was my cousin on my father's side, and she had the kind of mind that could turn a grocery list into a power move. At 28, she ran social media for 3 major brands and had a following that most influencers would end for. She also had absolutely no patience for people who messed with family. "Let me get this straight," she said, scrolling through her phone as we sat in my new office. "Your wife humiliated you in public, cheated on you with trust fund boy, and now she's trying to destroy your reputation?" That's the summary, yes. And she doesn't know about the inheritance? Not the full extent, Paige grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. Oh, this is going to be fun. What's her social media presence like? I showed her Savannah's Instagram. 15,000 followers, perfectly curated photos, comments full of worship from other social climbers. Basic, Paige said dismissively, but workable. What about the boyfriend? Chase's profile was even more predictable. Gym selfies, expensive cars, motivational quotes about success from someone who'd never worked for anything. God, I hate these types, Paige muttered. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let them hang themselves, but we're going to provide the rope. She spent the next hour explaining her strategy. It was diabolical. The key is patience, she said. Let them make the first move. Let them look like the aggressors. Then we respond with facts, just facts, and let the internet do the rest. We didn't have to wait long. That evening, Harper posted a video on her Instagram story. It showed me at Murphy's bar, sitting alone with a beer, looking tired. The caption read, "When you realize your wife is too good for you, #sadhubby, #reality check, #know your worth." The video had been edited to make me look pathetic. They cut out the part where I'd been laughing with Mick about factory stories, and the part where I'd bought drinks for a table of construction workers celebrating a birthday. Within an hour, it had been shared 500 times. Paige called me at midnight. "You see Harper's little production?" "Yeah, perfect. Now we respond." She'd already created a TikTok account for me, at Ugly But Loaded. The first video was simple. Me in my factory office wearing a hard hat with the caption, "When your wife calls you ugly, but you own the building where she cheated." It went viral in 6 hours. The comments were brutal. This man just won the divorce. Imagine cheating on someone and finding out they're your boss. Plot twist of the century. She's about to learn what for richer or poorer really means. By morning, I had 50,000 followers and 3 interview requests from local news stations. Savannah called at 7 a.m. screaming, "What the heck is this video? You own a factory? Since when?" "Since my uncle died and left it to me." "Your Uncle Frank? The loser who disappeared?" "That loser was worth $25 million. Silence. Then, "We need to talk." "We are talking in person. This is ridiculous. We can work this out." "There's nothing to work out. My lawyer will be in touch." I hung up and immediately got a text from Paige. "Check Savannah's Instagram." She'd posted a photo of herself looking sad and beautiful with a long caption about misunderstandings and working through difficult times and not believing everything you see on social media. The comments were not going her way. "Girl, you cheated? Own it. Too late for the victim act. Your husband seems like a catch. You fumbled. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." By noon, Gemma had joined the fight, posting a series of stories defending Savannah and attacking me. She called me manipulative and claimed I was toxic in every possible way, even suggesting that my sudden wealth was suspicious. That's when Paige decided to escalate. She released the screenshots. Text messages between Savannah and Gemma obtained through methods Paige refused to explain. Messages where they laughed about my appearance, planned ways to spend my money, and discussed how to manage me to get what they wanted. The most damaging one was from 3 months ago. Savannah. Sometimes I look at him and wonder what I was thinking. Like, I know I can do better. Gemma. But can you do better financially? He pays for everything. Savannah. True. And he's so pathetic, he'll never leave me. I could probably cheat on him openly, and he'd still pay my credit card bills. The internet exploded. #Savannah Callahan started trending, but not in the way she wanted. It became a hashtag for women admitting their own shallow mistakes and men sharing stories of being taken advantage of. My follower count hit 200,000. Chase, meanwhile, had made the mistake of posting a gym selfie with the caption, "Success attracts haters." The comments were savage. "Success? Your trust fund doesn't count. Imagine being this confident about stealing another man's wife. The only thing you've successfully done is prove that money can't buy class." That evening, I was having dinner with Mick and Marla when my phone started buzzing. Chase was calling. "Answer it," Marla suggested. "Put it on speaker." Listen, you piece of garbage, Chase's voice filled the restaurant. I don't know what game you're playing, but it ends now. What game is that? I asked calmly. This social media BS, making Savannah and me look bad. I haven't made you look like anything. I've just told the truth. The truth? You want to talk about truth? The truth is that your wife came to me because she couldn't stand being married to an ugly loser. The truth is that she's been pretending for years because the sight of you with your clothes off makes her sick. Mick's face darkened. Marla was taking notes. Are you finished? I asked. I'm just getting started. You think because you inherited some money you're hot crap now? You're still the same pathetic nobody you always were. And when this is over, I'm going to take everything from you, including your wife. Interesting theory. It's not a theory, it's a promise. Enjoy your 15 minutes because that's all you're getting. He hung up. The restaurant was quiet. Well, Marla said, that was illuminating. Did you record that? I asked. She held up her phone. Every word. Good. I think we're going to need it. Mick cracked his knuckles. Want me to have a talk with Pretty Boy? Not yet. Let's see how deep they want to dig this hole. As it turned out, they wanted to dig it very deep indeed. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Savannah and Chase, now desperate and publicly humiliated, had decided on one last gambit. They were going to break into the factory and plant evidence that I was embezzling from my own company. Rosa had overheard them planning it in the parking lot of Chase's apartment building. She'd been visiting her sister who lived in the same complex and had recognized Savannah's voice coming from the BMW. They're going to make it look like you're stealing money, Rosa explained, her voice urgent. The Pretty Boy, he knows someone who can fake computer records. They want to call the police and have you arrested. It was a stupid plan, but desperation makes people stupid. When? I asked. Tonight, during the storm. The weather forecast called for severe thunderstorms, the kind that knocked out power and kept people indoors. Perfect cover for breaking and entering. Mick, Paige, and I spent the afternoon preparing. We disabled the main lights, but left the security cameras running on backup power. We positioned ourselves in the administrative offices with a clear view of the factory floor. And we waited. They arrived at 11:47 p.m. Chase's BMW pulled up to the side entrance, headlights cutting through the rain. Two figures got out, Savannah in a black hoodie that probably cost more than most people's rent, and Chase carrying a laptop bag and what looked like a crowbar. Amateurs, Mick muttered, watching them through binoculars. They broke the lock on the side door, a lock I'd had replaced with a fake one that would break easily, and disappeared into the building. Now we wait, I said. Paige was live streaming everything to my social media accounts. The viewer count was climbing rapidly as word spread. The cheating wife and her boyfriend were about to be caught red-handed. 20 minutes later, they made it to the administrative offices. I could hear Savannah's voice echoing through the building. This is insane, Chase. What if we get caught? We won't get caught. And even if we do, it's his word against ours. But what if... Shut up and hold the flashlight steady. They spent 45 minutes trying to hack into the computer system. Chase's expert had apparently given him a USB drive that was supposed to install fake financial records. What it actually did was trigger a security alert that sent their location directly to my phone. Time to make our move. I came up behind them while Mick blocked the exit. Paige kept filming from the doorway. Working late? I asked. Savannah spun around, her face white with terror. Chase tried to palm the USB drive, but it was too late. Ethan, Savannah stammered. I can explain. Can you? Because it looks like you're breaking into my building with burglary tools. This isn't what it looks like, Chase said, trying to sound confident. You were just planting evidence to frame me for embezzlement, I said. Rosa heard the whole conversation. Chase's face went from confident to panicked in seconds. You can't prove anything. I held up my phone, showing the security footage. I can prove everything. That's when Chase made his biggest mistake. He tried to run. He pushed past Mick, or tried to. Mick didn't budge. Chase bounced off him like a tennis ball hitting a wall and stumbled backward into a desk. Going somewhere? Mick asked pleasantly. Chase looked around wildly, then spotted the emergency stairs leading to the roof. He bolted for them, taking the steps 3 at a time. I followed. The roof was slick with rain, lightning illuminating the city below. Chase was trapped, nowhere to go but down, and it was a long way down. It's over, Chase, I called out over the storm. He spun to face me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Real fear. For the first time in his privileged life, He was facing consequences he couldn't buy his way out of. "You don't understand," he shouted. "I can ruin you. I have connections. I have money." "Had money," I corrected. "I did some research. Your trust fund got cut off 6 months ago when your father found out about your gambling debts. You're broke, Chase. That's why you wanted Savannah to divorce me and take half my assets." His face crumpled. You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. You're a fraud, Chase. You're everything you accuse me of being." I took a step closer. He backed toward the edge of the roof. "Stay away from me. Or what? You'll call your daddy? You'll buy your way out of this?" Another step. He was almost at the ledge now, rain streaming down his face. "You called me ugly," I said, my voice barely audible over the thunder. "You called me pathetic. You spat on my truck. You tried to destroy my life. I'm sorry, okay? I'll leave town. I'll never bother you again." "You're right about that." I reached into my jacket and pulled out the crowbar he'd dropped in the office. His eyes went wide with terror. "Please," he whispered. "Please don't." I raised the crowbar and threw it over the side of the building. It clattered into the dumpster below. "I'm not going to hurt you, Chase. I don't need to. You've already destroyed yourself." He collapsed to his knees, sobbing. "What do you want? I want you to disappear. I want you to leave this city and never come back. And I want you to remember that the ugly, pathetic loser you tried to destroy is the reason you're still breathing." When we got back downstairs, Savannah was in handcuffs. The police had arrived. Marla had called them the moment Chase and Savannah entered the building. "Ethan, please," Savannah begged as they led her toward the door. "We can work this out. I love you. I've always loved you." "No," I said quietly. "You loved my money. You just didn't know I had any." She tried to say something else, but the words were lost as they pushed her outside into the storm. The live stream had attracted over 100,000 viewers. The comments were brutal. Justice served. "This is better than any movie. Never mess with a man who has nothing left to lose." Plot twist. He had everything to gain. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Savannah got nothing. The prenup she'd insisted on signing had protected her assets, not mine, and the adultery evidence made sure she couldn't claim alimony. Chase left town the day after his arrest. Last I heard, he was working at a car dealership in Phoenix, selling Toyotas to people who actually worked for their money. I kept the factory, expanded operations, and gave every employee a raise. Mick became my partner. Rosa became head of security. Paige became my social media manager full-time. And me? I learned that ugly is just a word people use when they can't see what really matters. I was sitting in my office 6 months later when my assistant buzzed in. "Mr. Callahan? There's someone here to see you. Says her name is Jennifer Walsh. She's a reporter from the Tribune." Jennifer Walsh was nothing like Savannah. She was pretty in a natural way, with intelligent eyes and a smile that seemed genuine. She wore jeans and a simple blouse, and she looked at me like I was a person worth knowing. "I'm writing a story about second chances," she said, "about people who overcame adversity and found success. I was hoping you might be willing to share your story." I looked out the window at my factory, my employees, my empire built on the ashes of my old life. "I'd be happy to," I said, "but I should warn you, it's not a pretty story." She smiled. "The best ones never are." As she set up her recorder, I thought about Uncle Frank and Rosa and Mick and all the people who'd seen something in me when I couldn't see it myself. "So," Jennifer said, "tell me about the night your life changed." I leaned back in my chair and smiled. "It started with a birthday party," I said, "and it ended with the last laugh